name is Janice Dietz. I am a SCORE volunteer in Prescott, Arizona. Scott is in Scottsdale, but we're extremely happy to have Scott Layden, who has a global marketing and business development professional for over 40 years, from early stages to Fortune 500 companies. He retired in 2017, moved out here from the East Coast. He's been an active volunteer in community support organizations, including SCORE. He's mentored hundreds of small business entrepreneurs, which is the whole point of this particular seminar. He's done our community bikes in Rochester, where he's from, and the Red Cross as well, which is a great charity. Mr. Layden's capabilities include business planning, product management, product marketing, and technical communications. He's also, again, a passionate cyclist, and he uses that avocation to raise funds for research and programs for nonprofits. So we're very, very excited to welcome Scott Layden, who's going to talk to us about using AR for new business research.
Thank you, Janice. Appreciate the good words. And yeah, AI is the new buzzword, if you will. And it's not only good for new business research, but basically for any kind of research, regardless of what stage your business is in. So here's our agenda for today. We'll do a little bit of history, so you have some background on AI. We'll focus on why AI is relevant for small business. We'll talk about samples and examples of research and so on and so forth. My goal is for today is to give you a foundation of how it can be used as a tool, whether you're starting, running, growing, or even at the point where you're exiting your business. Like any other tool, though, it's important to understand how and when to use it. And in the case of AI, it's really all about the questions that you ask, and most importantly, how to ask those questions. Good news, bad news, right? There are way too many tools and platforms out there for me to talk today about each and every one of them. So I won't be focusing on any one in particular, but I will say this, that there are free and paid versions of most of them out there. And I have found in my experience, and I've been using these AI platforms for well over a year now, with very few exceptions, the free versions are as effective in meeting my needs as I work with my clients. So I would encourage you to begin to play with them because it is free. I have found that you can't break it. If it doesn't like you, it will tell you. So for the most part, go out and play. In this presentation, when you get the slides, you'll find that there's a list of resources at the end. And if we have some time, I'll kind of look them over for you. But there's a lot of information at the end. So the slides, the presentation, consider it a reference guide for yourself as we go forward here. So all of that said, what is artificial intelligence? And essentially, it's the creation of computer systems that imitate human intelligence for tasks like problem solving and learning and decision making. It comprises a variety of subfields, but one in particular, the one we talk about, is called generative AI, which focuses on creating machines. And if you think of machines as software things as opposed to mechanical or electrical things, these machines can produce original and creative outputs like images, like presentations, like videos, like music, like computer code or content. The latest versions of AI have become incredibly intuitive, and they have the relative reasoning capabilities of a graduate student. So I certainly don't have those capabilities anymore. So I rely on AI to do what it does. And essentially what it does is it scrapes the internet for information, for data, for processes. And it synthesizes that data and reports it back either in a natural language way or in a visual context, or you can tell it how you want it to come back. So it's extremely powerful and extremely flexible. So a little bit of the history. Not a new concept, right? So back in the 50s, Alan Turing proposed the idea that machines could mimic human intelligence. I'm not going to go over all of these dates in particular, but it really started to take precedence back in the mid to late 90s when IBM began to um, talk about it more and more. And of course, there was the chess competition with Garry Kasparov that back then. It continues to evolve in a very large degree. AI is heuristic. What do we mean by that? It means it's sort of self-learning. It teaches itself in many ways. And the more information that is on the internet, which means the more information you and I and everyone in the world puts into the internet, the smarter it's going to get. Or I should say this, the more knowledgeable it's going to get. There is quite a bit of concern, and we'll talk about that in a bit, but there are legal and regulatory initiatives that are in place globally, starting to become more prevalent because of many of the concerns that we have. This is just a table that, by the way, I got from Perplexity this morning as I was preparing for our presentation. Literally gave me this table when I asked what are the current legal and regulatory initiatives around artificial intelligence. And this was the summary slide. There was a whole lot of other text around it, but this I felt was adequate for us. So, if you're thinking of Arizona in particular, HB 2394, for example, was signed into law in 2024, addresses what they call deep fake technology by defining regulatory and regulating digital impersonations. It was drafted using ChatGPT, one of those tools. Another initiative is election security measures. Arizona has invested in advanced AI analytical tools to enhance election security, to improve election administration, and detect AI-related threats, such as misinformation and tampering. As with most technology, legal and regulatory has to play catch-up. And so that is kind of the state of affairs with respect to that part of our environment, if you will. So, hype and fears. I'm sure many of us have read the books, seen the movies about artificial intelligence and its various incarnations. So there's always this hype about AI surpassing human intelligence. And of course, there's always has been and will continue to be science fiction scenarios articulating the past, the present, and the future as AI begins to take hold. So certainly there's all of that going on. What are some of the fears that we have? Well, job displacement. You can think of job displacement fears going back to the days of Henry Ford and the automated assembly line. But if you think about I think it was last year's dock workers strike over automation concerns, AI, it's real and it doesn't go away. And technology has always had the potential for eliminating jobs, but it has also had the potential for creating new jobs. And that's just the way our society works. There is and will continue to be bias and discrimination in the artificial intelligence world, especially in the generative world. Why? Because it's collecting data from the internet. And where does that internet information come from? It comes from all of us. And so inherent in the global thinking and perspectives is some degree of bias and discrimination. And AI is smart enough to actually create its own hallucinations. So one of the things I always caution everyone on is read every single thing, play every single thing that comes out of AI, because you have to test, you have to be aware of what's going on. Privacy and security are certainly issues. And there's always the bad actors, right? Those folks who are going to create weapons or weaponize the power of AI. We have yet to overcome the digital divide throughout the geography of the US and the world. I always have to ask, will there be an AI knowledge divide? Will those of us who understand and how to use AI find ourselves in a different context than those who don't, just like any other kind of technology or information source? Not a whole lot different than those of us who have access to a library and those who don't, right? There is that information divide and it's done in different ways. So So food for thought, if nothing else. The question I have to ask, having read it and watched any number of AI movies and books and so on, is will AI have a conscience? Will it know the difference between right and wrong? And so that's kind of an interesting context that rumbles around my head at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when I can't think of anything else. So food for thought, folks. Okay, so why AI for small businesses, right? You're all small business owners or entrepreneurs. Why AI? Well, because it's there. It's important that you get comfortable with it now and learn how to use it, regardless of whether you're starting, running, growing, or even exiting your business. It's a tool that you can use. I had a client last year who wanted to close out a business, and I asked, I think it was Google Gemini at the time, what are the requirements for closing out a business? Include information on marketing, on customer contracts, on financial analysis, on legal, and I can't think of all the other things, but all the elements of a business. And it came back and gave me a full plan. The client took that, created a project plan, and he and his wife, who were in business together, used that project plan to effectively close the business. So that's the power, that's the capability that it has, even at that stage of a business. So more and more clients are using it for business planning, for research, content creation, concept design, data analysis, and so much more. And so you can read the data here, the numbers themselves, but it speaks for themselves. It's not going away, and it's extraordinarily powerful and helpful if used in the way it's intended. So another survey that was out back in September. Among the knowledge workers, Hewlett Packard did a survey that asked questions about job experience. And so 73% of the respondents said AI made their job easier. 60% said it improved their work-life balance. 68% said the tools gave them new opportunities to make the jobs more enjoyable. 11% were happier with the jobs than those who didn't have AI. So look, if you're a business owner, aren't these some of your goals? And wouldn't you benefit from stronger employee retention, reduced recruitment and retraining, increased productivity, and so on? And so this is what AI can do in the work environment. So food for thought. I'm sure that all of you have these kinds of goals, these kinds of attributes that you'd like to hear about from your employees. Okay, so a little bit more. Why AI for business? So these are just some of the areas of business operations, business functions that you might begin to apply AI to. So for marketing perspective, right? Identifying target customers, key clients, ideal clients, personalize messaging and focus your content, optimize your marketing campaigns, right? All of these things are possible using AI as a tool. From a customer service perspective, there are what they call NLP or natural language programs for machine learning that can automate responses. So the initial calls coming into a call center, for example, might be handled by an AI, right? AI in conjunction with natural language, speech recognition and processing could then forward the inquiry to a dedicated customer service person who now has a context for the call, right? Sales, identifying potential leads, predicting sales trends, optimizing pricing strategies, again, with a view to competition, a view towards market willing and customer willingness to pay, and so on. Human resources, so automated recruiting. These days, if you submit a resume online, the likelihood is it's not going to land on someone's desk until it's been carefully viewed and vetted by an AI, a bot sitting behind the internet there. So it's been used that way for quite some time, and I expect it will continue to be used that way. Optimizing financial analyses and business case decisions. I had an opportunity to recently judge a competition, a pitch competition in Rochester. And I took one of the business cases from the participant, and I fed it to an AI, and the AI told me what was wrong with it, or what the issues were, or what the challenges were, both from a financial and a market perspective. It was helpful to speed me because I had 4 or 5 other participants to review, but it was helpful to me get a foundation of the information. And then as I read through the resume, not the resume, but the business case, it became clear where the deficiencies were. And so I was able to make those comments based on my input, not the ChatGPT input, to the recipient in an anonymous way. So very, very helpful from that perspective. Actually uploaded the document into the platform. Supply chain and logistics. So certainly looking over certain delivery routes. If you consider supply chain transportation, you know, you've got rail, you've got sea, you've got air, you've got road. Looking at all the potential routing options for delivering of a product. You know, if you've got a product that has a shelf life or requires refrigeration, you want to have an optimal transport route. If you've got a manufacturing facility, you want to understand the most efficient way to build a product from point A to point B in the factory, things like that. Operations and production processes, reducing downtime, increasing efficiency. So much that you can do in a business when you have the potential to look at things in depth and get that analysis. And again, that analysis has to be viewed by a human being for its validity, but it's a great starting point to get things moving along. Okay, moving along. More of why, right? So planning and prediction, market and customer research, marketing and promotion. Bottom line, why AI? Because your competitors are going to be using it. The biggest mistake you can make is don't use it, is ignoring it, because it's going to be there and the other guy is going to be using it. It provides you with foundational information from which you can then expand, enhance, modify, etc. And it saves significant time in the early stages of any business analysis. When you can get a business case evaluated in 30 seconds or less, you now have a way to go forward and make those changes and then re-up it, right? Run it back again and see if you have the same issues. So you can ask it to review your financial projections from the perspective of a banker. And what would a banker look for in a business case, in an Excel spreadsheet? So those are the kinds of things you can do with it. My point of view is regular and persistent use can keep you as a business owner nimble, keep you ahead of your competition, and most importantly, can keep you focused on results, because that's all what we're here for. So let me dig into some of the specific areas for applying AI to various stages of a business, but also let me pause. Janice, any questions, any pressing questions that we have?
No, none yet.
Okay, thank you. I needed a glass of water as well, so here we go. Okay, so as I mentioned, it's all about the questions. So AI has taken us beyond the search engine concept. We're now dealing with one of my colleagues refers to as answer questions, or answer engines, I should say. So no longer are people merely using keywords to find web content, but they want answers to specific questions. How do I do this? What does this look like? What if I did that? So they're looking for very specific answers. So again, one of my colleagues, Jennifer Shaheen, recently introduced me to this concept of these formula for creating the questions. And this is really the fundamental component to using these AI tools. So she's created these 3 different categories of formula. The first one, for example, being the role, the task, and the format. So if we think about the role I mentioned before about the banker, in this case, here's an example: act as a social media manager and write Instagram captions for a painting business and format them as numbered captions under 150 characters. An example. Context task format. So give it a context for the question. In this case, the context is a maintenance campaign, an advertising promotional campaign. Our HVAC business is running a spring maintenance program. Write a promotional email announcing the offer. So the context is the maintenance campaign. The context could also be, for example, as I mentioned earlier, I want to exit a business. I need a business exit strategy, right? That's a context. And then you ask it specifically, like I mentioned, where are the areas that you want the information in? And then her third formula is what she calls grade. So a goal, a request, action, detail, and example. So the goal is improve customer engagement. And you can do that through frequently asked questions, as I'm sure many of you have seen. So write some frequently asked questions about this particular kind of product, these issues, and so on. What are some of the details? Well, focus on heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, seasonal service related questions. And the action should be do it in a conversational and friendly way. And finally, include questions like, so here's the examples. How often should I get my AC serviced? So these give you a structure for creating your question. It's not the only way to approach it, but it's perhaps a good start for thinking about what it is that you want to ask of the AI. So let's continue along. We'll take a look at some other information and areas. So market research. And I don't need to read through all of these. You guys will get the deck. But these are some of the general categories for which you might develop questions, prompts about the business. And we're going to go look at some AI prompts in a few minutes. But these are some way in which you can organize your research around your environmental issues. When I say environmental, I'm thinking of the business environment. So everything from competition to the market to the technology, society, and so on and so forth. But as you look at these examples, I would encourage you to take out your pen and paper or your notepad or whatever you're using there to record notes and write some questions about your business, perhaps in each of these areas. So if you have a small business, ask a question you would have is, who is my ideal client, right? Where do my ideal clients get their information from in a particular industry? What are the major trade associations that my clients are typically in? When do those exist? When do those run? Things like that. Predictions and forecasts. So you can get a sense of all of these elements through an inquiry with AI. And I think the last one there is, just plan for your business environment to change, right? The only thing constant in business is change. So technology, legal, regulatory, we're going through a whole lot of that right now, right? Social, economic, political, all of these things are playing hand in glove in our world these days. So we have to be aware of what's going on, and we have to be nimble and be able to respond to these things. A great question would be, how does a 10% tariff affect the general sales capability of my product? How will it reduce? What will it do to my revenue? Will it do to my net profit and cost of goods? Things like that. And you can feed it, for example, a QuickBooks P&L from a month back. And it will look at that P&L and it will compare it to the information in the internet. And it will give you an assessment of what the impact might be from a 10%, a 50 or 100% tariff on your products. So food for thought. Customer and stakeholder research. So this is what we call demographics and firmographics. So demographics, I'm sure we're mostly familiar with. This is things like the age of people, the gender of people, where people live, how many households exist, how many people in a household, median income ranges. But there are similar attributes or statistics for businesses. Things like total sales revenue, number of employees, geographic locations, a lot of different firmographics that are out there that we need to understand if we're a B2B business. Okay. Moving on. One of the things I wanted to mention in the other one. So if your business happens to be a not-for-profit, you have other stakeholders besides dedicated customers or people who buy whatever it is that you might be selling. I think of Goodwill, right? They have the store, they sell product, but who else are the stakeholders? Well, the stakeholders are the beneficiaries. So the people who work at Goodwill that have disabilities and couldn't find jobs elsewhere, those are the beneficiaries, right? Donors, people who donate either cash or goods to Goodwill. Those are stakeholders. And so again, the same question is, who are my stakeholders? Where do they meet? What is their general level of income or gross or disposable income? So I can begin to target my messaging as a not-for-profit. Food for thought.
Are you ready for a drink of water so I can ask you a question?
Go for it.
Okay. Sebastian Sliker is asking, are there any online courses you would recommend on how to work with AI to ask the right questions to get the right answers?
The answer is no, I'm not aware of them. But my suggestion is go to that thing called YouTube and do a search, and I guarantee you're going to find something.
And then another one just popped up. What AI tools are good for customer stakeholder? Let's see. Customer stakeholder research.
Yeah, each of the platforms has its own, and I want to say weaknesses, but strengths. Perplexity is one that is generally good for um, general kinds of writing. Claude, I found out recently, is very good for social media and marketing content. So again, I urge you to go to each of the each one, maybe Claude and Perplexity and ChatGPT, and ask the same question and see the results. And maybe you'll find that you can merge the results. Always check the sources. I think Perplexity does a great job of identifying its sources. So try it and find out. You can ask any of the platforms, which is the best platform for generating, what'd you say, marketing content, I think it was? Was that what it was?
Customer and stakeholder research.
Customer. So which is the best platform to use for customer and stakeholder research? And it will give you some suggestions. That's the good thing about this, is you don't have to have it all in your head all the time. Good questions. Thank you for those. Janice, others?
Nope, that's it right now.
Okay, good. Thanks, guys. More on the customer stakeholder research, sentiment analysis, predictive analytics. These get a little bit heady and probably are more of the kinds of research that a larger organization would do. But the end result is, ask yourself questions about what you want to know about your customers, their views, their feedback, what's trending across the board. So you want to find out how your customers feel about each other, about your products, about your competition, about changes in the marketplace. There is no question you can't ask. And I say that with an appropriateness about it, of these platforms, because there's just so much information that they can pull. Business idea validation, right? So if you think you have an idea, what do? You write a business plan, you write a business case, and you can feed it to one of these or multiples of these platforms. And it will either prove or disprove, or give you some degree of modification to your idea, and then you feed it back in. So for example, I recently asked ChatGPT, what's the commercial potential for starting an international exchange program for youth ages 10 to 18, and who are the ideal clients? And I got back about two pages of information. But let me pose this to the audience. Who do you think would be the ideal client for an international exchange program such as this? Anybody got some thoughts? Put it in the chat or the Q&A.
Yeah.
You get any response?
Nothing here yet, but.
All right, well, you guys keep thinking about it and just poke it into the chat box.
Oh, parents. Ebony said parents.
Exactly. One would think initially that it's the child, but it's not. It's the parent. So the next question is, tell me about the parent. And so the parent is typically an individual of a higher income and who has a global perspective. And so that was part of the information that came back. So congrats to you on coming up with the right answer. But you see what we're able to do, what we're able to get out of that. And it also gave me price ranges for different kinds of programs. So that's also interesting. So good, thank you. Okay, so business validation, business idea validation, faster, deeper insights, some of which I just described to you, predictive analytics. It also provided me with some trends in international exchange programs to date. Product development, so you can accelerate development through new ideas. These have the capacity to generate images. So if you have a product concept, you could say to one of the platforms, create an image of a machine with two arms that moves checkers from the red space to the black space. And it may give you a design, it may give you multiple designs. It may even give you a video. To improve the customer experience, we talked about that a little bit earlier, where you can speed that initial customer inquiry call based on an AI intake of voice and feed it to a dedicated or specific consultant that has the background necessary for responding to the inquiry. Competitive advantage. I'm sure many of you have heard of the term SWOT, S-W-O-T. You can ask, I could have gone right back to this chat GPT with this question, and I could have said, provide me with a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis for this particular business, and it would have given me that, okay? Business model optimization. To kind of summarize it, we look at things in terms of the business environment. And so, as I kind of alluded to earlier, what's the business environment? It's the competition, it's the technology, it's society, it's economics, it's nature, it's legal and regulatory, it's political. All of those things have an effect on any business on any given day in some way, shape, or form. Your challenge is to understand how those things change, the rates at which they change, and how your business needs to adapt or modify its products, processes, or people to adapt to the changes in these elements of the environments. So as I mentioned, you can take your business model, if you've ever heard of a business model canvas, which is a one-page illustration of a business, how it operates on a day-to-day basis, which I think is what's in that picture. You can feed that in and ask it to do an analysis on value propositions, on customer segmentation, on channel definition, on relationships, costs, revenues, things like that. So the key here again is identifying what's changing in the environment and how you can adapt and pivot in the world to ensure that your business is sustainable and has longevity. Okay, so here we get to kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? There are ethical considerations. Always have to be concerned with data privacy. Again, you're scraping the internet, or it is scraping the internet, I should say. And so there is information out there that, in theory, may need to be kept private. How it got into the internet is a whole nother question, but you should be aware of the information that you're collecting and how you're using that. I think in the early stages of AI, a number of law firms were using AI to generate certain kinds of legal documents, only to find out that the law was wrong, or the law was reflecting someone else's content. And so by not spending the time, the lawyers had to go back and make modifications. And as we all know, hopefully there's not too many lawyers out there, but lawyers charge for their time, and they don't like to lose their billable hours on having to repeat processes. So always paying attention to data privacy, respecting intellectual property, maintaining a balance between what's automated and what's human driven, all important things to do. So we always have to have human eyeballs looking over the results and paying attention to the ethical considerations around using AI. So kind of a summary slide here, which basically says why AI? Well, everything. Why not AI? I think is the answer. There isn't a business discipline that doesn't have relevance where an AI application couldn't find some use in some way, shape, or form. So play with it, get used to it. Some best tips and practical practices, practical tips and practices. So the key is in the question, and the question is based on the application of what it is that you're trying to solve for. So increasing efficiency, reducing costs, getting more customers, improving your bottom line, whatever it might be, the more specific and detailed and directed you can be, the better the answer is going to be in terms of the problem that you're solving for. What I love about it is it gives you foundational knowledge, a place to start, where it may have taken me an hour, 2 hours to write a letter to a local government official for a client who's looking to set up a local art business, art exhibit, not for profit. It might take me 2 hours to write the letter. However, I think it was Google Gemini, about 30 seconds, had the letter back. And now I could go through and I could put it in my voice, or the client could put it in his voice. So it sounds like it's coming from him and not from AI. But it gives you that foundation, how to write that initial letter. What are the key points? Focus on the practicality of the applications, right? What are projects, activities, initiatives specific to your business that you're looking for information and ways to approach? We talked about the ethical considerations a few moments ago. Just don't forget about the concept of bias, potential discrimination, and so on, because again, the information is coming generally from the public domain. The scary part to me is this number 5, and it gets harder every time I do this, is learning is essential. You just have to stay updated. Many of these platforms just recently added the ability to generate images and generate videos from the content that you give it. Notebook LM, which is a Google product, I recently used it. I fed it a link to a website, and it came back with a podcast. 2 people, male and a female, discussing the elements of the content on that podcast. It was great. It was about 10 minutes, clear as a bell, and spot on in terms of content. So you can't forget the old saw, garbage in, garbage out. But nonetheless, the generative AI can take good stuff and give it a different context, right? Give it a different point of view or a way to present it. Again, some best practices, if we think about being clear and specific, use clear, concise language to avoid any kind of misunderstandings. Give AI the relevant content about the business, the industry, your goals. Use content relevant words and phrases. Research and incorporate industry specific words and phrases so that it has that context. Use the kinds of words and phrases that your target audience might use to ask the question. And so that's part of what you would use to ask your question. Setting clear goals. So again, we referred to that example before. Give me 3 postings of 150 words or less. Measure it. So if you're building content for your website, or if you're building content for an email marketing campaign, measure the results. All of these platforms give you analytics and metrics. So if you take a step, you test, you validate, and you reiterate, and you iterate where necessary. We talked about examples using AI to help understand preferences and style. You can iterate and refine as many times as you like. Some of the free applications, free platforms will say, well, you've done enough for today, come back tomorrow, which is fine, just as long as you understand it. Staying updated, right? Working with professionals where necessary. So these are some query examples that I've done over the last couple of years. And they're all very, very varied. Very, very varied. Yeah, they're different. So what is the annual growth rate for a sector that grows at 17% over 5 years? Show me the math. And so it gave me, I don't know if you're familiar with the term CAGR, C-A-G-R, compound annual growth rate, but it gave me the mathematical expression for the compound annual growth rate. I had a client who is wanting to market to home builders a particular product. Who are the major home builders and real estate developers in the particular county that they were in? What are recommended content marketing strategies for social media platforms to promote a reception hall, event, and party venue? Specify each platform and suggested content. So that kind of goes to the question that the gentleman had asked early on, right? Which is the best platform? And again, I would take this question and I would put it in 3 different platforms. You get the answer in about 30 seconds each, so it doesn't take a whole lot of time. And then you can compare the information. So that's general market research. Customer specific and marketing research. One of my clients was a roofer in a local area, and he was struggling, him and several others were struggling to compete against the big boxes. So identify specific collaborative tactics. So that means him and his competitors, right, or partners, collaborative tactics and programs that the smaller competitors can implement, including business consolidation, which would mean 2 or 3 of those folks buy into each other or sell to each other. When struggling to compete with a dominant player in the market, and how can these tactics help gain more traction in the playing field? Okay, very specific. We got some great information, some good insight. Provide a mission statement. So here's from a nonprofit perspective for an organization that uses equine therapy to help children and veterans with a quiet space that promotes mental health. Okay, very specific. Another one, identify key media and news outlets in the city, county for press releases. So who are the names of the people in the news media, in the print, digital, and TV, if you will, and usually get those names to begin to create a public relations campaign.
Scott, you've got about 20 minutes left.
Okay, good.
In case you want to take a sip of water.
Well, I appreciate that. Good thought. All right, so some more query examples. So now we're into the business idea validation. So I had a client that wanted to start a small restaurant business. So how do I start a small restaurant business specializing in locally sourced produce and offers a family dining experience, including beer and wine? And so we got the information there. It also included information about the licensing that you would need for the beer and wine. Okay. Provide a business model canvas for a lawn care company that provides mowing, raking, trimming, and other related services. So what is a business model canvas? It's 9 blocks. It's what is the value proposition? Who are the clients? Who are the relationships? Who are the channels to market? Who are the partners and the resources and the activities of the business? And what are the costs and the revenues? 9 blocks. It gave me all of that information in a table form for a starting point. Okay. Without that, it would have taken the client probably a couple of days to put that information together. If the client really understood the concept of the business model canvas, which is another starting point. So again, the AI has that context, that information, and it knows how to pull the information into those blocks and respond in a structured way. Excuse me. What are the business elements and processes of a manufacturing operation? So that's a huge question. Right? I have a client that has a small manufacturing business, wants to expand. Well, what does that client need to account for in expanding that business? So I wanted to take a macro holistic view of any manufacturing operation and see what the components were, match it to what they do today and what they don't do today, and where they need to backfill. So as they're looking to expand and scale. So again, the idea of getting some foundational information and how to apply that to a problem that you're solving for. Value and pricing is always a challenge for many, many businesses. So describe how to value and price a software application for healthcare staffing agencies that enables the agency to connect staff inventory, because people are inventory in these businesses, facilities to post shifts, track hours, provide activity reports, and payment processing. So how do you price that service to the prospective, call it a hospital or an urgent care facility or something like that? How would you price that service? Provide suggestions for describing location expansion. So here's a chocolate shop that wanted to acquire the space next door and expand its products and services to the local community. So provide suggestions for describing location expansion for this chocolate retail store into a multifunctional space that will host a cafe and be strategically designed. So what does that space look like inside? You know, where's the refrigeration? Where are the tables and chairs? Where's the cash register? Things like that. Designed to transform into such a workshop, event, or experience space. And I said the language should be clear, but also reflect the elevated level of the type of experiences the customers can expect. What does that mean? So the idea there is to talk about the experience in the facility, noise issues, the ability to have a conversation that doesn't overflow to other tables, things like that. So again, very detailed, specific kinds of questions, and that's the kind of feedback that we got. Okay, so we're talking about technology and AI, but you know, guess what, folks? Old school still works. I spend a bit of time here and there at the Burton Bar Library downtown on the second floor. Incredible business insight center. They've also got a lot of online tools, e-resources, where they have databases that you can do inquiries of. All you need is a library card. So let's not forget that we have the old school, and the folks down there are very skilled and very much interested in helping out. Okay, so that's it in terms of the presentation. How much time we got?
You got 12 minutes.
All right, so just going to run through very quickly, and then I'm going to stop sharing. And perhaps if you have some questions, we can actually play with one or two of the platforms. But I want you to understand. So some additional platforms and resources with some links. This will be in the slides that you get. Lots of good stuff here. Lots and lots of good stuff. There's a boatload of different applications out there. In these next two slides, I've identified some of them that you would use. Again, the free versions are generally adequate. Claude, Perplexity, Google Gemini, excellent to get started with, right? Google Notebook LM, I mentioned that earlier. There's another one just learned about called Napkin, which can create what do they call them? Infograms, right? Advertising materials. GitHub Copilot, if you're a coder, will generate code for you. If you want to do text to video, you can use Sora AI, which is a part of the OpenAI, which is also ChatGPT. Synthesia is an interesting application platform where you feed it a PowerPoint and it will generate a video presentation with an avatar. What's an avatar? It's a artificially generated person that speaks the words that it's generated for the presentation with your PowerPoint as the background. Fascinating stuff. What's the last one here? So again, more AI prompts and examples. So the more you study these, the more you play with them, the more examples you see that you can align with your own challenges or needs, the more you're going to get comfortable with this, just like anything else, right? You get some muscle memory going, and it begins to come almost natural. So some good stuff here for you for future reference. Let me figure out how I can stop sharing. Get out of here.
Scott, I have to tell you that you've sold me. Yeah, I was against using this for my students, but now I understand that it is an unbelievable tool.
Yeah, it's again, you've got to put it in perspective, right? Got to understand the good, the bad, and the ugly, so to speak, and um, play with it. Just get used to it.
There's a question here, I'm sorry, about the PowerPoint. Yes, you will get those tomorrow, Laura. We've got 33 people on this today.
Oh, good. Anybody want to play?
People are saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. It was very helpful.
I saw Jose was offering to play with one of these.
Jay said he was going to, sure.
Yeah. So Jose, if you want to put your question in the chat box, I believe I can cut and paste it into a platform. Close out my
And Patton says, play what? So I
play.
think what he wants you to do is put a question in here and he'll put
Yeah,
it in a platform.
right.
Well, I've got one for you. How can I sell my fiddling business to Phoenix, Arizona?
Okay. So let me share the Chrome. Okay. All right, let's go to Perplexity. And one of the rules is there is no making fun of my typing. Okay, so can you guys see this inquiry page?
Yeah,
Janet, you can see it?
yes, I can see
Okay.
it.
So what was your question? How?
I have a fiddling business. How can I market it in Phoenix, Arizona?
What is fiddling business?
What is a fiddling business? I have a
Yeah,
client who's a fiddler. She's an Irish fiddler.
okay.
And so she's trying to get her business going actually in Flagstaff.
Oh, you can't make fun of me. How can I market my fiddling business in Flagstaff, Arizona? Okay, let's see if it asks more about what's fiddling.
Uh-oh.
Well, there you go.
Okay. Yeah. Look at that. Local events, networks. That's amazing. That's amazing.
So if you were my client,
Mhm.
I would take this information and I would say, okay, so let's talk about a marketing plan. And so if we're thinking about online advertising, what are the platforms I would use to do that online advertising? Okay. What are the social media elements? Right.
Mhm.
What are the local events in the Flagstaff community? So in the next 3 to 6 months,
Mhm.
what are the events and how much does it cost to attend them? What do I need when I'm there? What does my booth space look like? Right? What is
And
it?
now, stop just a second. Naveen is asking, do paid AI tools generate better answers than free AI tools?
Um, in some ways, yes, but more importantly, they give you more features. So what does that mean? It means they may do deeper research than just scraping the internet. They may give you what they call modalities, different modalities that you can apply. They could, and again, I'm not totally familiar with all of these, but you can ask it to do a web search, or you can specify certain kinds of content that you would like it to find for you. So there's more features and capabilities. I don't know that the answers are necessarily better in the context of good or bad, but you can get more in depth and maybe perhaps more targeted responses.
I've got one question here. I am developing a product for dogs to license this product. how can you explain how I develop a canvas model for it?
Well, I would struggle with how the dog is actually going to do the licensing, but the question you ask is very, very, very good, right? You would ask ChatGPT to develop a business model canvas or provide you with a business model canvas, and then you would describe your business, right? Whatever that product is it for all dogs, big dogs, small dogs, breed specific? Are you going to market it, planning to market it online? That sort of thing. Any attributes to the dog owners, right? Those kinds of questions. So the more specific you can be, the better off will be your response.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Let's see if we've got any more here. One more Q&A. Oh, no, that's the same one. Okay. So we've answered that. Answered about paid AI tools. And it is, I'm sure that everybody on here has gotten as much as or more than I have out of this, because the world is open to you. You can do anything and it will help you do anything.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay, so if there are I've got no more chats here. Oh, okay, all right.
Just out of curiosity, now that we've got this, um, I'm going to ask it to develop a business model canvas for your business here.
Oh, for his dog business?
No, well, sure, we could do that. I was going to go to your fiddling business because
Oh,
we got some of this information. But is the gentleman still on?
let's see. Back to the Q&A. I think so. It's licensing this product. How do I develop a canvas model for it?
Okay. So
His name is Jose Cano.
thanks. To provide a business model canvas for licensing.
A product for dogs.
Is it a food product? Is it a wearable product? What kind of product is it?
He's not answering.
I call it a food product.
Okay.
This, for example.
Oh, he says it's a device to clean up dog waste,
Oh, okay.
like a
Licensing.
diaper genie.
Yeah, okay. All right. Licensing
Thank you, Jose.
a product to clean up dog waste. And I might be interested in that because I've got a dog. Right, a business model canvas for licensing a product to clean up dog waste. Okay.
Is it patented yet, Jose?
So Jose, if you're on, can you see the business model canvas? It's done in paragraph form.
He says the idea is to license it, but I need to show some sales to prove it has demand.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there
Right?
you go.
There you go. So you would start with the business model canvas in this way. You'd start with your segmentation, your value proposition. Right? How would the product be sold? So, is Purina one of your target licensees? Right? So understanding what their process is like is going to be important. But selling the product and getting that traction is going to be extraordinarily helpful in your process, as you mentioned. So where would you do that to establish preliminary sales? Another question, which is not unlike the fiddling business question. So you would begin to go perhaps to local farmer markets, right? And you would have a presence there. You would perhaps begin with a Facebook position, Facebook ads, right? You might try it out on Amazon or TikTok as well, right? That's where you would begin to establish that. And then you would say to ChatGPT, write a letter to Purina's product procurement organization expressing my interest and asking them to review my product for potential licensing. Right? You might do that. You would also, to Janice's point earlier, give some consideration to your intellectual property protection. So, you know, you had asked if he could patent it. Again, patents, trademarks, those sorts of things are really only as good as the amount of money you want to throw at it after somebody decides they want to steal it.
True, 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 true.
Right. But nonetheless, you know, if you think it is that unique in the industry, so that's another question you would ask. What are competitive products in the marketplace for cleaning up dog waste? And, you know, I can think of little scoops and shovels and vacuum cleaner things and all kinds of stuff like that. So that would be the next question I would ask. What are the competitive products? And then I would take the next step and I would define your product in more detail. And I would ask, what are my strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats versus my competitors, right? What are the key features that are in mine that are not in theirs? You know, is there a cost differential?
Well, there's something for cats, but cats are a lot smaller than dogs, so I suppose it has to be a different situation. So I think we've come to the end. I want to thank all 33 of you for coming. You will get a copy of the slides, a copy of the video, and hopefully you'll come to some more. So thank you so much, Scott, for selling me on the idea.
You're very, very welcome.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.